And also here with me, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. See what's happening up the road in West Lafayette as week 0's here. Purdue does not play this week. Indiana does not play this week as we're head closer and closer to the season. But what's happening up in West Lafayette, Travis?
Just a lot of practice, getting ready for the season, seeing who's going to come out. And again, I think this is a team that has a lot of mystery as to who's really going to be some of the major contributors. We know Hudson Card is going to be the starting quarterback. He was named a captain yesterday. His top returning receiver is TJ Sheffield, who had a little over 400 yards receiving last season, 4 touchdowns. And he was also named a team captain. But aside from him and running back Devin Mockabee, there's a lot of question as to who the top receivers are going to be and who will be the leading in production with this offense, honestly.
Yeah, similar to a few other teams, Purdue going through a coaching change in the Big Ten West. Was it 4 or 5?
Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin. Yeah, 4.
And then you add Brett Bielema from last year. So you've got 5 brand new faces in there, Coach. So the Big Ten West, although this is the last iteration of the Big Ten West, has seen an impotence of new coaching. So you're going to see a new offense. I think I talked about this earlier in the week. The offensive coordinator is Graham Harrell. Is he at Purdue?
Yes, he is at Purdue, and he is very excited to have Hudson Card on board. Apparently, Card's been working really well with him, and everything that we have heard is that they are just clicking really, really well together. But we're about 8 days from kickoff, and it'll be interesting to see what results we have because everything else that we've just heard is, great practice, lots of positive things. It'd be nice to see it translate to the field in a week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Purdue can do. And we were just talking in the break about Jeff Brom down in Louisville. Louisville is such a linchpin game for Indiana, but a completely different offense, although it may not be all that different from what Purdue fans have been seeing.
Right, and that's what I'm looking forward to. He wants to run more of an air raid type. He's a Mike Leach disciple, but it's going to be a little bit more mixed up. You've got to mix it up when you've got Devin Mockabee back there, a kid that ran for nearly 1,000 yards last season. Hudson Card himself is a much more mobile quarterback than Aiden O'Connell was. So I think you're going to see some modified RPOs. They're going to spread the field out, and they're going to move the ball. It's just a question of who is going to be moving the ball aside from Mockabee and Card.
And then, of course, defensively, what do they have back on defense? How are they looking on that side?
That is really where he's plugging in a lot of different transfers and everything. One player that is very, very intriguing is Jeffrey Mba. He is a transfer from Auburn, and a year or two ago, he was the #1 junior college transfer recruit in the country. So it didn't really work out at Auburn. He didn't play a whole ton, but he is a physical specimen. He's about 6'6", 320 as a defensive lineman. And he's one of those guys that has not played a lot of football. I believe he is originally from Gabon in Africa. So, kid that's still very raw being worked with and whatnot. But we've heard some really good things about him. And if you're looking for kind of a guy that might be a diamond in the rough that nobody's really heard of yet, he is one that, he might really burst onto the scene. And then you have Nick Scorton, who had a pretty solid season last year as a true freshman. You might know him as Nick Carraway. He adopted a new last name this year. And he is also expected to be pretty solid on the defensive end and be able to get to the quarterback. And then the secondary is almost entirely new, honestly. You've got Cam Allen with 10 career interceptions, did come back for his senior season at safety. But the cornerbacks are all new as transfers. They actually lost a transfer this past week with Jamari Brown leaving the program. And I think that says something for the transfers that came in, where you have a guy that was a starter for much of last season just decided to enter the transfer portal this past week and ended up at Mississippi State all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a little bit late, and I'm sure that plays havoc with teams. There should be And I'm surprised that there's not a line that's a little more closer to the start of things for those guys to be able to do that, I believe. But oh well. Purdue opening up with an opponent that not exactly easy, and we'll talk about this again more next week. But Fresno State, formerly coached by Kalen DeBoer, he was an offensive coordinator there. He came to Indiana, then he was then the head coach there. Now he's the head coach at Washington, but they had success under him. I'm not sure what they're like right now, but I can't imagine they've fallen off that much that fast.
They won 10 games a year ago. They won their conference. They do lose their quarterback, their running back, and their top receiver. So they're having to replace a lot of offensive production. But as you said, they are always a tough team. Even before Kalen DeBoer got there and before Jeff Tedford got there, they've always just had that attitude. I know they've gotten famous for we will play anybody anywhere when we can. I have memories of them given USC all they could handle in the Coliseum when USC had Reggie Bush and Lindale White and all of them. So I'm not expecting an easy game. This is going to be a challenging one for Purdue, but I think it's one that, depending on how Purdue responds, it will give you a much better idea of how the first year is going to go, just because it's not your typical FCS, you're going to win by 6 touchdowns game for the new coach. No, this is one that right off the bat, Purdue will be challenged.
And I don't know what my schedule is not showing it, but I'm missing one of the non-con games. They play Syracuse 2 weeks after Fresno. Is there a bye in between, or is that the game I'm missing?
They are at Virginia Tech. It's the back end of a home and home. Virginia Tech came to Purdue in 2015. So a lot of people forget that game because that was year 3 of the Hazel era, and everybody wants to forget the Hazel era. But yeah, that is the back end of a home and home, and that's going to be an interesting one too, just because Virginia Tech is coming off one of their worst seasons in quite a while, and I know there is not a ton of excitement for this year from what I have seen. But it is still a road game at a Power 5 opponent. And Virginia Tech is known to have a pretty solid home field advantage. So that in and of itself will be a test.
And I'm looking, I talk about Indiana has to reduce the load on their non-con schedule, mainly by not scheduling teams like Louisville and Cincinnati. But I look at Purdue, man, that is not an easy non-con schedule. You got Fresno State, Syracuse, and in between, although we just mentioned Virginia Tech is down, it's a Power 5 road game, and it's a program that has had success. So whenever this game was scheduled, they probably were successful. That's a wicked non-conference schedule for a team like Purdue that's not in that upper echelon with the Ohio States and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, in the next few years, it's not going to get any easier. Next year, Purdue's supposed to go out to Oregon State, and Oregon State looks really, really good right now. We beat them to start the 2021 season when they came to West Lafayette. Purdue won that by 9, but it was a game until late. I think Purdue got a touchdown with about a minute left to give them some breathing room. And then Notre Dame comes back on the schedule for the next 5 seasons after this year. I believe we've got 2 or 3 games left with Indiana State in alternating years. We've got one with Ball State coming up. But there are home and homes with Wake Forest, with North Carolina, with Ole Miss coming up, and the back end of home and homes with Vanderbilt and TCU, where Purdue has to go there to each of them in consecutive seasons. Now, that's like 2029, 2030. They may be in the Big Ten by then. Who knows? But
that's so it's a 5-year home and home with Purdue?
Well, TCU and Vanderbilt both came to Purdue in 2019, so the back end is not going to be for both of them. It's not till 2029 with Vanderbilt and 2030 with TCU. But I remember my first game as a student was against Rice in 1998, and they didn't give them the back end of the home and home until 2011. So you know how these non-conference schedules works. And like I said, they could all be in the Big Ten by 2029. I don't know. Who knows?
Let's see. Where did it go? Fred pointing out that Purdue basketball sold out their 9,000 season ticket allotment for their 3rd year in a row. Does that include their students?
I don't believe so, but the students get like 1,500 seats, I think, and those will sell out as well easily. I
Wow.
think Purdue's on something like a 48, 50 game home sellout streak, and that shows no sign of ending anytime soon. I mean, when you're going to enter the season in the top five, I'm not surprised at all.
I'm surprised they don't get a lot more student tickets. Only 1,500. Indiana has 7,000 student tickets. That seems like a really small number. I know it holds around 14,000. And that place, I can't imagine how loud it would be if they had more students in that damn thing.
I mean, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but I know they sell every single student ticket that they can sell. And
Oh, I'm
they
sure.
they even get it for the Christmas break games. They kind of set some of them aside for the students that are like, okay, we're coming back to campus early, or especially if it is, a Big Ten game or something, which is kind of a point of contention because Purdue, for whatever reason, has really struggled in that home Big Ten game like January 2nd, January 3rd when the students aren't there. I know that's when they lost to Rutgers last year. 2 years ago, they lost to Wisconsin. And it's one of those games we look at that and like, okay, who is Purdue going to be playing in that one? Because they seem to almost always just not quite have it when they don't have the students there.
Well, it's hard to come back after eating all that ham and turkey, man. it's I feel them. Zach Edey, the big man, the Big Easy, makes not Team Canada yet, but he makes the final. He did make the final 12 for Canada's FIBA World Cup prime. So he'll be playing some more international ball.
Yeah, he's looking good over there. They seem very, very solid and very happy with him. I mean, he's going to be playing against NBA caliber team players over there. I believe it's in Jakarta in Indonesia. So it'll be a good experience for him. I'm not sure who they play, who they've drawn in group play. Haven't looked into that as much yet.
France.
Yeah, you're going to have him go against Rudy Gobert. I mean, you talk about stepping up in competition and want to see how he's going to perform. That's right there. Even if he only comes off the bench for 5-10 minutes a game, that's valuable experience, not just for Purdue this coming season, but to see how he stacks up for his eventual professional career.
Yeah, Lugan Dortz, R.J. Barrett, Kelly Olynyk, and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on his team. So he has talent around him, but he, like you said, he will be going up against a ton of talent, which that has to prepare him better for this upcoming basketball season than anything he could possibly do. I mean, this is like going to camp, big man camp.
And I think, honestly, one of the things that'll stand out, I think Purdue will be better as long as if he doesn't have to do as much. I mean, yeah, he's still going to be an offensive force at the basket. He's still going to be one of the best rebounders in college basketball, but I'm willing to sacrifice 3-4 points a game and a couple rebounds a game if it means that Fletcher Lawyer's hitting another three, if it means that Braden Smith is getting 3 more assists, if it means Mason Gillis is hitting threes, or Brian Waddell or Camden Heidi is not locking down that 3 spot. And that is going to be the key for Purdue is how much is the rest of the team going to be able to pick up for him to where he doesn't have to do as much, but he's still there under the, all right, we need a basket right now. Let's give it to the really tall guy near the basket.
Yeah. For Purdue to win on the national stage, it has to be that way. That's what killed them last year. I mean, they got swept by Indiana because they were able to do what you could do to Purdue at the time. And because it was Big Zach or pretty much nothing if you were able to defend them. Well, obviously, you've got guys. I've heard that Trey Kaufman-Renn has made an enormous jump in his game with his shooting. The guards are obviously a year older, wiser, which is just going to make them better. You still have Mason Gillis. You still have Caleb First. So much that is coming back. There's no way that they're not going to be better in and of themselves. But this right here that we were just talking about with Zach Edey, that could be the biggest thing of all. Even though you are right, and like I said, they only win on the national stage with him doing less. This could make him just be completely dominant when he is doing what he is doing, and he was already pretty dominant.
I think one of the blessings that Purdue will get out of this is not only Edie getting that experience with Team Canada, but when they went on their European trip about a week or two ago, they played without him. And so we got to see how this team was going to function without him in the middle. You know, that gave Trey Kaufman-Renn more minutes. That gave Caleb Furst some more minutes in the middle. They got to see a guy that's he's probably not going to contribute too much this year, but he's kind of the guy in waiting, the next 7-footer, Will Berg, 7'2" guy from Sweden that can step out. He's a little bit more of a shooter and can play a little bit more in the perimeter, kind of like Matt Harms. That's who he reminds me of. And I think that element is key, is being able to play without him, because, yeah, Edie was playing 31, 32 minutes a game. That's still 8 minutes that you have to find a way to produce on offense without him on the floor. If Purdue can consistently keep that offense without him on the floor, or even stretch it to 12 minutes where they can still score, still function offensively, that's what's going to really make them better, is being able to play without him.